Have you ever checked your bank statement and seen a debit you know nothing about, only to discover it's for a private villa in Bali booked for the very weekend your husband had to work? That's exactly what happened to me last Tuesday, and it felt like someone yanked the rug out from under my feet. I'd been lounging on our living room couch, half watching a documentary on urban farming, when my phone buzzed with an alert from my budgeting app. Payment of $2,875 to Sapphire Bay Resort, Bali. I blinked at the screen, certain my vision was playing tricks on me. That can't be right, I muttered, tapping the transaction details. Date, last Saturday. Status, completed. I scrolled up and down, heart thrumming in my ears. No pending alerts, no pending transfers, just that single charge, like a neon sign screaming secret vacation. My breath caught. Mark had told me he was on a weekend work retreat in Sydney. We'd kissed goodbye on Friday morning, me in leggings and an old sweatshirt, coffee in hand, him in a crisp shirt and a carry-on bag. He'd insisted on sending me photos of the conference venue by Saturday afternoon, a gleaming high-rise conference center in circular quay, blue sky. Overhead, never did I imagine those booths weren't in Sydney, but in a villa that cost more than our monthly mortgage. I pressed the alert into my palm and hurried to the kitchen, where I found Mark rummaging through the fridge. He turned, surprised. "Hey, hon, did you pick up more almond milk?" I thought we had enough. His voice was light, casual, but my chest felt like it was pinched with ice. "Who is Sapphire Bay Resort?" I asked, voice low. He blinked. "Sorry, what?" He wiped his hands on a dish towel. "It's the resort they're hosting. The lunch at tomorrow. Thought I mentioned the dinner cruise and the gala." Dinner cruise. Gala. I swallowed down the rising panic. "You're in Bali?" His face paled. He hurried over, eyes frantic. "What are you talking about?" I cleared my throat, trying to steady my voice. "This." I held up my phone and replayed the transaction alert. "You booked a weekend at Sapphire Bay Resort in Bali." He reached for the phone, but I jerked it away. "It can't be a mistake. Date, amount, weekend, everything matches." His jaw clenched, and he ran a hand through his hair. That must be a glitch." He paused, eyes flicking to the fridge, then back to me. "You know how online banking is. Sometimes it shows old transactions." He fumbled for the remote on the counter and clicked through our email. "Here, my itinerary. See, Friday morning flight to Sydney. Here's my boarding pass." He handed me his work email printout, flight QR code to Sydney, C14B. Departure time 9:05 a.m. Friday. Return flight Monday at 7:30 p.m. I stared at it, heart pounding. "So you flew to Sydney Friday morning, spent the weekend there, and miraculously had time to hop on a flight to Bali and back." My voice cracked. "That doesn't make sense." He swallowed, gaze flitting away. "Look, I work with a lot of consultants. Sometimes arrangements get changed. Itineraries get updated. I must have clicked the wrong booking link." He pressed his lips together, eyes pleading. "It's not what you think." I felt my cheeks burn with a mix of anger and humiliation. "Really? Because I think it's exactly what it looks like. You lied." I folded my arms. "You told me the weekend was all about the Sydney conference and the networking events. You even FaceTimed me from the rooftop bar Saturday evening." His shoulders slumped. "That was a bar in Bali. They have a rooftop bar," he said quietly. "It's called the Sky Lagoon. Same vibe as Sydney." My stomach dropped. "You used the same filter, the same neon lights." I almost laughed in disbelief. You think that's convincing? I had the image on my phone, him, cocktail in hand, city, skyline behind him. He'd zoomed in, so I couldn't see the waves below. We're not in Bali, Mark. We live in Vancouver. My budget alert didn't glitch. You were there. He took a step forward, eyes searching mine. You're overreacting, he whispered. You always jump to conclusions. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. I'm overreacting, I echoed. You spent 3 days in a luxury resort, presumably with someone else, while I worried you. We're stuck in a conference hall. Rage burned in my veins. Do you know what feels worse than being lied to? Being gaslight. He looked away. I'm sorry, he said, voice small. I didn't think it would matter, my conferences, my trips, they're my time to recharge. I thought you'd understand. Recharge. I laughed bitterly. By spending thousands of dollars on yourself, on a resort in Bali, while I pick up extra shifts to cover our expenses. Your recharge is my financial disaster. I pressed a hand to my chest, steadying my breath. I want the full story. Now. He took a shuddering breath and ran a hand through his hair. Fine. He turned toward the living room and motioned for me to follow. Sit. I perched on the edge of our sofa, phone still in hand. He paced before me, gathering courage. Finally, he stopped and met my gaze. I'll tell you. Everything. My heart pounded so loudly that I could feel the tremor in my lips. Good. He slumped onto the armchair opposite me. It started 6 months ago, he said, voice raw. After that big deal, I felt empty, like I was just a suit in a boardroom. Then I met her. His eyes dropped. Her name's Julia. She works for the resort chain, event liaison. I met her at the gala in Sydney last spring. I pinched my eyes shut. You met her spring? He nodded. We connected. She understood the pressure. We joked, and one thing led to another. His voice cracked. By the time I booked the Bali trip, I didn't know how to stop seeing her. I shot to my feet. You had a weekend fling, and you spent 3 days in a couple suite paid for by our joint account. My hands shook. How could you even think I'd believe you were recharging? He stood, stepping toward me. I never meant to hurt you. I cut him off. Then, don't. I pointed at him. Stop hiding. Stop lying. Stop telling me I'm crazy for asking where you really are. I paced the room, voice shaking. I need to decide if we can survive this. But right now I need space. He flinched. Space. His voice was pained. But I haven't even told you the rest. My chest tightened. I don't want the rest, I said. I want honesty. If you want to keep living this secret life, you'll find your bags packed when you get back. I stormed upstairs, nearly tripping over the hallway runner. I dug out a small overnight bag, tossing in a few changes of clothes, my laptop, and my toothbrush. I heard him calling my name below, but I ignored it. By the time I returned to the living room, he was standing in the doorway, eyes red, wallet in hand. I deactivated the resort membership, he said quietly. I blocked her number. I'll pay you back every penny. I met his gaze, pain and defiance warring in my chest. We'll talk after I've calmed down, I said, voice steady. Please respect that. I slung the bag over my shoulder. He watched me for a long moment, then nodded. I'm sorry, he said again. I'll be here when you're ready. I walked out the door into the cool evening air, the click of the lock echoing behind me. I didn't know where I'd go. Maybe my sister's place, maybe a hotel. But one thing was clear, I was not crazy. I was a wife who caught her husband in a web of lies, and now I would decide whether to cut him loose or find a way to rebuild trust from the wreckage. And that decision would be part 3. The next few days felt like living in a fog, a mixture of anger, betrayal, and disbelief that refused to lift, no matter how many times I tried to clear my head. I stayed with my sister for the first 2 nights. She was a whirlwind of comforting words and late-night tea, but even her presence couldn't stop the storm in my chest. The unanswered questions kept me awake. How long had he been seeing her? What else had he hidden? Was I ever more than just a placeholder while he kept a secret life? I spent the first day scrolling through his social media, his work posts, pictures of us at parties, family gatherings. I combed through everything, trying to understand when the shift had happened. When had I stopped being the woman he came home to? The woman he told everything to? And what did Julia, the woman in Bali, represent? Why was she the one who got the honesty he couldn't seem to share with me? I didn't call him, though. I needed space. I needed to think through what happened. Was there a chance to repair this? Did I even want to? Or was it better to walk away, knowing I could never fully trust him again? On the 3rd morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I'll do anything to fix this. I made a huge mistake. Please. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I didn't want to be impulsive, didn't want to send something I would regret, but I also felt like I was holding my breath in the middle of a storm. I finally typed back, I'm not ready to talk yet. A minute later, he called. I let it ring once, twice, then finally answered, my voice calm but firm. Sarah, please hear me out, he said, his voice shaky, like he had no idea what to expect from me. I'm sorry. I've been an idiot. I thought I could keep it all together, but I was wrong. I should have told you, but I got lost in it. I don't want to lose you. His words felt like a barrage of promises. So many things I'd heard before, but now they felt hollow. How could I trust anything he said when I knew the depth of the secrets he had been hiding from me? I can't even process what happened, Mark, I said, my voice breaking slightly. You went away for a work trip and came back with stories of a weekend you didn't share with me. You lied about where you were. You lied about everything. I paused, trying to calm the tightness in my chest. How long has this been going on? How many times have you done this to me? He fell silent for a moment, the weight of the question hanging between us. I didn't want to hurt you, he finally said. I thought I could juggle everything, but I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't want to hear it anymore. It's not about mistakes anymore, I snapped. It's about trust. You've broken it. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I heard him take a deep breath on the other end. I'll do anything to fix it, Sarah. I'll prove I'm committed to you, to our family. But I need a chance to show you. The words, show me, echoed in my mind. How could he show me? How could I believe that this was the last time he'd do something like this? I don't know if I can give you that chance, I said quietly. I need time to think. I need to figure out what I want, what I need from you. And I need to know you're willing to put in the effort, not just say things to fix it. I'm willing, he said quickly. I'll do whatever it takes. Then prove it, I said, my voice steady. I need you to start by being completely open. No more lies, no more secrets. You need to answer all of my questions, no matter how difficult they are. You need to show me that you understand the magnitude of what you've done. There was a long silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end, and I knew he was processing the weight of my words. "Okay," he said finally, the quiet desperation in his voice evident. "I'll do that. I swear." I hung up, a sense of finality settling over me. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew that if there was any chance at rebuilding what we had, it had to start with honesty. The next step was entirely in his hands, and that terrified me. The following day, I returned to our apartment, my heart heavy with the decision I'd made. I told myself that I couldn't keep running from the reality of what he'd done. If there was any chance of salvaging our marriage, it had to start with full transparency and a commitment to the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Mark was already home when I walked in. He was standing by the window, looking out over the city, but when I stepped through the door, he turned to face me, his eyes filled with apprehension. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice thick with regret. "I never wanted to hurt you." "I need you to tell me everything," I said, setting my bag down on the couch. "Every detail." "No." More avoiding it. He nodded, his face pale. He walked over to the coffee table and sat down, his hands shaking, as he folded them together. "It started when I went to that conference in Sydney. I was feeling disconnected from everything. From you, from our life. And then I met Julia. I sat across from him, my heart pounding. And she's the one you've been hiding." He nodded. "Yes." We connected right away. It wasn't planned, it just happened. I didn't think it would mean anything, but it became something more. I'm not proud of it, Sarah, but I need you to know the whole truth. He met my gaze, tears pooling in his eyes. "I'm so sorry." I waited, my hands clenched in my lap. "Keep going." "I was stupid," he said, his voice faltering. "I lied to you about the Bali trip because I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to explain her. I never wanted to hurt you, but I couldn't stop myself. I thought I could juggle both lives, but it caught up to me, and now here we are." My chest tightened. "You thought you could juggle us both," I repeated, voice trembling. "Mark, I'm not some option you can just keep in the background while you explore other relationships." He shook his head vigorously. "I never meant to do that. I've always loved you, but I got lost. I lost sight of what was real. And I'm sorry." I swallowed hard. I had so many questions, so many things I needed answers to. But the one that kept coming back, the one that gnawed at my insides, was the one I finally asked. "How long have you been seeing her?" He exhaled, defeated. "Since February. But it was only supposed to be a one-time thing. I didn't plan for it to turn into this. I thought I could end it before you found out." I ran a hand over my face. "And how many times did you lie to me about it? How many times did you go on business trips while really you were with her?" He winced. "Too many," he whispered. I stood up, walking to the window, trying to process what he had just confessed. Everything about our life, the one I thought I understood, had been a lie. And now I had to decide if I could ever trust him again. When I turned back to him, he was sitting with his hands clasped in his lap, waiting for my response, waiting for me to make the next decision. But the truth was, I didn't know what to do. What did it mean to forgive someone who had lived two lives under the same roof? Was love enough to heal the wounds he had caused? I looked at him, my heart torn. "I don't know, Mark," I said quietly. "I don't know if I can forgive you." His eyes filled with tears. "I'll do anything to make it right," he whispered. I didn't answer. I just turned and walked out of the room. I needed space. I needed time. Because no matter what happened next, I knew that this wasn't just about him and me, it was about me deciding whether I could ever see him the same way again. Whether love could really survive the weight of betrayal. And that decision would take more than time, it would take trust. And trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to rebuild. The days that followed were a blur of quiet contemplation and restless nights, and I couldn't seem to escape the constant question swirling in my mind. Can I really rebuild this? Can I look at him again and not feel the sting of everything he's hidden from me? I spent the next 2 days staying at my sister's place, trying to clear my head. She didn't ask me questions at first, just offer the kind of company that didn't require explanations, quiet dinners, her calming presence as I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. I let my thoughts drift, and as I did, one thing became crystal clear. I wasn't ready to walk away, not yet. When I finally returned to our apartment, the atmosphere felt off. Not heavy, but fractured, like a mirror that had been dropped and only partially put back together. Mark was home waiting for me in the living room, pacing back and forth. He had his head in his hands when I walked in, as though he were mentally bracing for what was to come. I set my things down in the hallway and stopped in my tracks. "We need to talk," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. He turned around, his face a mix of exhaustion and relief. "I know," he replied softly. "I'm sorry for everything. For the lies, the secrets, and for making you feel like you weren't enough." I took a deep breath, closing my eyes briefly before opening them to face him. "Mark, I don't know how to even begin to process everything. It feels like I don't even know you anymore." He nodded, his eyes filled with remorse. "I understand, and I can't blame you for feeling that way. I haven't been honest with you. I've been living a lie. I never meant for it to hurt you, never meant for it to get this far, but it did. And I need you to know that I am truly sorry." I ran my fingers through my hair and let out a slow exhale. "Sorry isn't enough, Mark. It's the lies that have broken us, not just the infidelity, but everything that led up to it. The hiding, the pretending. You built this entire persona, and for months I had no idea." He stepped closer, desperation written on his face. "I get that, but I didn't know how to stop. I thought if I kept everything separate, I could still have the life I built with you, but also have something else, something I thought I needed. I was wrong." I shook my head, struggling to put my feelings into words. "But why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? If you were unhappy, if you were feeling disconnected from me, why didn't you just talk to me?" I paused, swallowing, instead of running to someone else and building a second life. He dropped his gaze to the floor. "I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want to burden you with my fears and insecurities. I thought you'd think I was weak if I told you the truth. And the worst part is, I didn't even realize how far I'd gone until it was too late. I felt a wave of frustration rise within me, but I fought to keep it in check. You didn't think I'd be hurt if you had a secret life, if you were spending weekends with someone else while I thought you were in Sydney for work. You didn't think I'd notice that something was wrong." His voice cracked. "I was selfish. I kept telling myself it was just a weekend. Just one more lie to cover the last one. But it spiraled out of control. I didn't want to hurt you, but I did." I could hear the sincerity in his words, but I couldn't escape the ache in my chest. His explanations didn't erase the facts, the trust he had shattered, the fear I had lived with when I didn't know where he was. "You've hurt me, Mark," I said quietly. "I don't even know who you are anymore. The man I thought I married, the one I trusted, he's not here. You've been living in a fantasy, and I don't know how to come back from that. He moved toward me, cautiously, as if afraid I might walk away again. I know I've broken your trust, he said, voice raw, and I'm not asking for you to forgive me overnight, but I'm asking for a chance, for you to see me for who I am now, not the man who lied, but the one who wants to rebuild everything. I stood in silence for a long moment, feeling the weight of his words, and yet my heart remained guarded. Could I forgive him? Could I ever look at him the same way again? I wasn't sure, but I knew that I wasn't ready to make any final decisions yet. Mark, I said, my voice shaking, I'm not sure what the future holds. I'm not sure if I can ever fully trust you again, but I'm willing to give us a chance. I need you to prove that this wasn't a one-time apology. I need to see consistent effort. He nodded quickly, his face etched with determination. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll show you, through my actions, not just my words. I'll prove I can be the man you thought I was, the man you deserve. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. The decision felt too heavy to make in a moment of raw emotion. So I said the only thing I could. I need time. I need you to be patient with me while I figure out how to move forward. He stepped back slightly, letting out a breath. Of course, he said. Take all the time you need. I'll be here waiting for you. For the next few days, I kept my distance. I focused on work, on self-care, on processing everything that had happened. I spent evenings with my sister, chatting about everything except Mark and his betrayal. When I was alone, I'd think about what we had, about the man I married, and the one I had discovered online. I spent hours wondering whether I could rebuild this life with him, whether love and honesty could somehow patch the holes that had formed between us. Mark continued to be present, always gentle and patient. He helped with the housework. He took our son to the park without complaining. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Every time I saw him, I couldn't escape the image of him with her, the hidden texts, the secret trips. I couldn't forget the time he'd spent living a life behind my back. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table working through bills, he sat across from me. I've been thinking about what you said, he began, his voice low. You need to see consistent effort, and I want to show you that I can do better. I want to show you that I can be who I promised I'd be. I've been to counseling, and I'm setting up a therapist for myself, and I'm happy to go with you if you want me to. I looked at him, eyes filled with exhaustion and quiet hope. I need you to stop hiding, Mark. From me, from yourself. No more secrets. He nodded. I promise. No more secrets. I paused, then let out a slow exhale. I'm willing to try, but this will take time. Time for me to rebuild trust and time for you to prove you're truly committed. He smiled faintly, relief washing over his face. Thank you, he whispered. I know I don't deserve it, but I will prove it. The next few weeks were filled with uncertainty and painful conversations. Mark went to therapy on his own, and we even attended a few couple sessions together. Slowly, things began to shift, not overnight, but in tiny increments. I learned to share my feelings without hesitation, to ask him about his day without fear of what I might find. He learned to be completely transparent, showing me his phone, leaving no texts unchecked. He answered every question, even the difficult ones, without evasion. One night, a month after our initial confrontation, we sat in the living room together, just the two of us. Our son had gone to bed, and the house was quiet. I looked at Mark, who was scrolling through his phone, and it hit me. We were beginning to rebuild. Slowly, cautiously. But we were rebuilding. Mark, I said quietly, breaking the silence. I don't know if we'll ever be the same as we were before, but I'm willing to find out. He looked up, eyes soft with gratitude and understanding. Thank you, he whispered. I'll never stop working to earn back your trust. And in that moment, I realized that forgiveness wasn't a single act, it was a journey. And, together, we were starting that journey, one day at a time,